in your home or wherever you may have access to this video. Start with some standing exercises first. I really like to use the wall. Gives me feedback of where I am in space. So as best you can, heels, pelvis, rib and skull in contact with the wall. Now to get there you might find that your posture changes out of what is comfortable, so your chin may lift, your chest may come forward. Go to where you feel you can be as stacked. So if that means being slightly more forward, just having your rib cage on for now, the head just sits where it is, eventually you'll move to that place. So we'll start here, just to where you feel comfortable. I'm just going to take my attention to the pelvis, a bowl of water, tip the water out the front, tip the water out the back. Can your knees stay straight, or your legs stay straight, not bending at your knees? Feeling that opening up through the hip as you do this. Just the pelvis. Okay, moving forwards and back. Anterior and posterior tilt. You think about the water in a bowl that's on top of your hips, going, tipping out to the toes, tipping out to the heels. And then take your attention to your rib, lifting the rib, imagine there's a piece of string on your breastbone, and dropping it down like a puppet. Try and have your head stay in that stacked position, so the wall's a great reference for this. But if your head can't be up against the wall, then just having a sense of maybe moving a little bit less so you're not sending your head all the way over your toes. These exercises are on axes, so that means we're stacked, we're not challenging our base of support, we're not working too much against gravity. Okay, so that's the rib movement. Now to help that, we're going to take the attention to our hands and our thumbs in particular. So we're going to have our palms facing our leg. We're going to turn the palms outwards, thumb leading. And as we do that, create a spiraling effect through the forearm, through the upper arm, and then we'll feel like our shoulders are opening out. Our shoulder blades are going to slide down our body and our chest will lift, just as we did in that last exercise. Now we can reverse that, taking the thumbs back, forearms back around, spiraling the opposite way, and we create that rounding action. I've exaggerated that there so you can see. So effectively we're using our hands as the guide to bring the rest of our arm, shoulder blades and rib cage and spine into the mix. I'm going to do a few more here. Noticing where you feel that. Just know that when you go to the extremes of these movements, it might be to the detriment of the other areas of your body, so just go within what's comfortable. Try not to force anything. From there, take attention to your skull or your head. You should have the low part of your skull against the wall, and you're going to slide that low part up the wall, and then you're going to slide it down. So at the front, the nose is your reference point here, going down and up. Just having a sense of it feeling even, left and right against the wall can give you a bit of information about how rotated your body might be, your skull. A few there. All right, now to add in a nice arm piece. So if you've got the full wall that you can be against, come back to stand against the wall and you're going to have your hands out to the side. Both thumbs are facing down for the moment. I don't want to mess with the Banksy, so I'm going to be stepping forward, so I've got my imaginary wall. I'm going to have one thumb up now and one thumb down. What we're going to do, we're going to again follow the movements of the thumb. So one hand's going to go down and the other thumb's going to go up and back. So down and forwards and up and back. And we create a rotating movement through the arms again, but now we're getting a movement side to side of our rib cage. We'll be looking at this a little bit later as well, but lovely to get into this area. Just go into no space where there's no discomfort. Moving back. And just watching when you're doing this, if you're feeling uncomfortable through the shoulder and you're rounding too much more, just do a little bit less on each side. Really nice. Okay. Okay, so coming back to the wall, let the arms relax, have a little bit of workout there. Pelvis, rib and skull against the wall as comfortable as you can be, or to the degree that you can in its most comfortable position. And then from there we're going to move the skull and the pelvis at the same time. So attention to the pubic bone in front of the pelvis and your nose, and we're going to send the pubic bone down and the nose down. So we're tipping water out of the pelvis towards the toes and out of the nose towards the toes. And then we're going to repeat but go the other way. So now pubic bone comes up, nose comes up. And in the middle of all of that, the rib is doing the opposite. So as your pelvis goes up, pubic bone goes up, nose goes up, rib goes down like you slump. And as you tip water out the front of the pelvis and the nose, the rib comes up. And move through that cogging action against the wall. Good little workout through the body. Do 5 of those. Have a little shake off, step away from the wall, give yourself a little shake. All right, now you're going to find yourself back against the wall. I'm going to change the position because now I'm going to be working in a front-on view, so I would use the front-on position to help you here. Again, we're thinking about our pelvis, our rib and our skull. These are the largest objects within our body that we get to use to manipulate the spinal movement in the lower limb and the upper limb. So, and vice versa, the upper limb can manipulate these large shapes through their movements. So what we're going to start with is bending the left knee. You're still in that same position against the wall, in contact. The bending of the knee doesn't bring you away from the wall of the pelvis. It allows your pelvis to drop down on that side. Your both feet remain in contact with the ground. The bent knee, that arm will then rise up in the air like a marching arm to the point where it's about to ask a question. And then you're going to slide the opposite arm down. The head will stay where it is rather than coming off to one side. But you will notice that there'll be an opening on the side that you're reaching down because we're taking that shoulder away from the ear. And the rib cage is angling this way and the pelvis is angling this way. So we're creating a cog action in front rather than side on. So on the opposite side you've now changed. Right knee's bent, left leg is straight, sliding that arm down the straight leg, lifting the arm on the bent leg. Head will travel just slightly, but it's more of that opening that you're going to get through there. Just go to where you're comfortable, but the key experience is, can your pelvis drop and rise on the other side? And you can move through this fairly smoothly. If you're finding it to be very enjoyable, you can hang out there for a bit longer. You might get some clicks and crunches as you go, and that's okay. As long as there's no pain, we're just moving you in ways perhaps you haven't been moved collectively before. Okay, really nice. And just give your shoulders a little bit of a roll. All right, so coming away from the wall now, you can place your hands on, people often say hand on your hips, but actually this bone here is your ilium bone, and you sort of have a prominent two pieces up front, and that's your ASIS. This is just a bony landmark that we often use. So once your hands are on your hips, your hands are there. It can be a nice reference. Also, if you're looking at yourself in the mirror and thinking, I feel a bit wonky today, and you could see one side might be higher than the other. So hands on ilium or pelvis, as we like to refer it, your hips a little bit lower. And we're then going to think about rotating pelvis one way to the other. So now that you've found the pelvis and your hands have been on your pelvis there, take your hands to your chest, and we're just going to rotate. And all of these movements, really, it's a bit of observation. You might notice that you go more one way to the other. Might feel more painful. We'll go a few times through there, and then we're going to keep the pelvis still. We're just going to move the rib cage side to side. Forward and back, having a sense of how that feels. If you can do this in front of a mirror, even better, because you might notice you're sort of twisting off off to the side a little bit, and can you bring that back and focus that you feel fully stacked. And then from there, coming to the head, looking over one shoulder, looking over the next. We'll do this when we're looking out to the world. When we're moving this, we're moving them in isolation. So, and then let's now change that. The head's going to stay still here. By virtue of the rib moving, we are getting that movement through the spinal part of the neck, so your cervical spine. So I stay forward. I'm going to twist the pelvis this way, and then your rib cage is going to go the other. Just going to go through a few little cogging actions there. Should feel a little bit strange, obviously not going into pain, but kind of an odd feeling is the goal. That's nice. So good little warm up through that area. Give yourself a little bit of a shake out. Now for those that might have access to wedges, that's great. If not, you can get a rolled up, either a rolled up tubie grip, so you can roll it up to make it kind of the shape of something that's going to go under the foot, or you can go get a tea towel. So you might want to pause this and get yourself set up, and then come back and you can continue. All right, so if you have the wedges, what you can do is, I'm going to come side on so you can see my feet in the image there, and we're going to bring 1 foot forwards. We're just going to place the wedge, or if you like, I'm actually going to do that in a moment. We'll just look at that movement first. So 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Now, if you're wondering about how far to take that step, how would you normally walk? So almost just say, okay, I'm just going to take a step forwards. I'm not going to think too much about what that looks like. It's not a lunging step, so you're kind of coming through to here. So just where you sort of feel that you're comfortable there, and just have a rock forwards and back when you're here. So that rocking is happening from your feet. So the heel at the start and the heel at the back. So the heel at the front and the heel at the back. So as we're here, the heel is up here and the heel is down here. We're going to rock forward so that you perhaps have more weight through the big toe on the front, and you've actually curled up to the big toe on the back foot. We're just going to check in on that back movement though. So as you're coming up, just watch that you don't then come up onto the big toe itself. We want to aim to still have contact with the knuckle, if you like, of the big toe. So that's that sort of big prominent bone, for somewhere they have the bunions starting to appear later on. All right, so from there we're going to come forwards and back. Now what I'm going to get you to do now, we're changing it a little bit. We're going to bend the front knee at the same time as we're going to lift the heel of the back leg, keeping that big toe in contact, or the knuckle of the big toe, and you're going to send your knee forwards. And the idea is, can you be stacked pelvis, rib on skull on top? Can the front foot melt to the ground? So we're letting that arch soften so that the foot can meet the ground fully. We're creating that length there. And come back. I'm going to do this 5 times on each. Now, just quick check in, are you inside of your feet parallel? And do you have a roughly about this far, maybe kind of 2 feet, 2 side feet's worth, or maybe 1.5. So if you were standing, you'd have hip distance apart, and that's how you want to be when you're doing this step stance position. And you want to have the inside of your feet parallel. So if your foot's turned out to the side, turning out, try and bring it in to where it's comfortable. If it's really uncomfortable to keep your feet inside aligned, then go with the most comfortable but as close as you can be. So from here we're going to come up. And my hope with this, if your back leg can stay straight, your knuckle of your big toe is on the ground and you're traveling forward. So right now your pelvis is on top of your ankle and that leg is straight. We're upright, we should feel a stretch through the front of the hip. When you don't feel that stretch, it could be for a number of reasons. A bent knee, you might not be going far enough over, or you might have let yourself sink into a little bit more of a tilting forwards of the pelvis. And you might actually feel a little bit uncomfortable in your low back. It's like that blocking into it. So if you do feel that, you can create a little bit of a tuck. So imagine we're back up against the wall, and then you can come forwards and feel that nice stretch through the front of the hip. Check the big toe is in contact and that your leg is straight. Travel forward. We'll do 3 more here. Just checking in, can you feel that stretch? Coming forwards. Now, that's good. We're going to just now take attention to the front of the foot. Now, If you notice that your big toe is lifting up all over the place, you might want to create pop a wedge underneath the big toe, just that knuckle. And the amount that you want to put in is really dependent on how it feels. If you put too much, you're going to take away all that feedback of the ground. So you really want roughly a half of it under and half of it not half of the wedge, but the half of the big toe is under, and we call it the Goldilocks effect. So basically you can have a play around and see what that feels, but I've roughly got the size of a toe and the half there. And then also at the front, if when you're coming up and over, you're sort of struggling to maybe feel contact through the big toe at the front, these wedges actually give a bit of awareness. They sort of bring the ground to meet you. So whilst we wouldn't recommend doing this, in a shoe, it can be really nice as a way of like shining a light in the brain at the movement of the foot. So just popping that in there and seeing how that feels. So if you don't have the wedges, you can use your rolled up towel or your Tubie grip or anything. TheraBand. I think I said the incorrect thing last time. And so from here, we're going to come up and see if that makes a difference. May or may not, but the idea is we're coming up on the back leg. Can the front leg soften? The knee's going to go over the big toe, just as far as is comfortable. We don't have any load as in weights in our hands, so we're not concerned about this knee over second toe. We're really doing it as the biomechanics have set us up. All right, let's change sides. I'm going to pop the wedges in straight away because I know that I quite like that feedback. And so from here, this idea of traveling forwards, already feel a stretch through the front of my hip. Coming through, straighten that back leg. I tend to feel a bit of discomfort here, so I end up doing an extra little tuck. And wow, that really is a stretch. Good one. Moving forwards and back. Checking, does that foot flatten at the front, knee over big toe, pelvis is on top of the ankle, back leg is straight. Check that you're on the big toe at the back, or the knuckle of the big toe. And you're getting that stretch through the front of the thigh. Give yourself a little bit of a shake out. All right, I'm going to do this side on now. You won't be able to see my feet as well, but we're now going to bring in the upper body movements. That just to have a little bit of a movement stretch, but again, you go into what feels comfortable. Using a mirror can be really handy because you can sort of see where you're going off center, and you'll notice with me while I'm demonstrating, I might look a little bit kind of like I'm moving around the movement, and that's just my own adaptations that I've smartly created in my body over time that I'm now showing there are smarter ways to move. So you're going to come forwards, lifting that back heel up. You'll notice here that my back leg, the pelvis on this side is a little bit dropped, so you've already got that position through there. I'm going to travel forward, so I'm fitting a little bit through here. My pelvis, by virtue of this leg staying behind, this leg coming forward, has started to rotate forwards. So we're getting a rotating there, and I'm just going to rotate my rib cage this way. What I then like to do is add in some Spider-Man hands. So imagine that you're shooting out some webs, and you're going to come around and reach through, loading in. Now you might see that I'm sort of coming off to the side a little bit, so I'm just going to stay on. I'm going to use the video as my feedback for my positioning. Getting that stretch, head stays still. Spider-Man arms. Really nice. Okay. Changing over sides. You can spend as long as you wish on here. I'm just doing a few reps because that's what I feel like in my body today. And coming round, coming through, opening up. You can move back and through. Coming in. All right, lovely. Give that a little bit of a shake up. All right, so now we're going to add in a little bit of rotating the other way. I'm going to place the wedges this time in the inside of the foot. We've got two of them. We're going to place one under the big toe, and then we're going to place the other one under the heel. So again, I'm not using the whole wedge. I'm not putting a whole towel in there. It's just subtle enough to bring the ground up to meet the foot. And we're going to this time have the feet parallel to each other. We're going to work on the leg with the wedges underneath. So if you just come onto the toes of the other foot so that you're able to put all the weight down through that leg on the wedges. We're going to straighten the knee. Now, when I say straighten the knee and you straighten the knee, just have a quick look and see if you have, because for some people their brain will think they've straightened it when they haven't. Often we might have had something in the past that's kind of in a protective sense made us want to keep our leg a little bit bent, and so I'll invite you just to explore that and see if you can extend it a little. And on the other side of that is watch that you're not hyperextending, so that's where your knee goes back past where it would be a stacked joint, because that's just the same as a little bit too bent. We really want it just to be straight. And so have a go at playing around with that movement, and maybe that's as far as you get to today and exploring that knee flexion extension. If that's feeling okay, we're going to stay in this stacked position. So the looking down piece, you'll notice I look down to check, I actually take myself into a different position. So having a mirror to reference is quite useful there. Keeping that contact through the big toe and the inside of the heel there. We're now going to think about lifting the arch of the foot. Big toe must stay in contact, so that's a non-negotiable there. It must stay in contact. We're going to think about turning out, creating an opening out from there, coming around, and then round and then through. So it's like a spiraling effect, similar to when we were doing the arms, and we're going to be coming out, round and round and round and round. So standing here, coming out, opening, coming around. And if you want, you can reach the arm. Good. Watching that big toe hasn't lifted off. We really need 3 points of contact, and those 3 points of contact are the knuckle of the big toe, knuckle of the little toe, and the heel. Those 3 points are key, and if the big toe comes up, sort of like all bets are off in terms of getting the most from this exercise. So lifting the arch, coming around, just check the toes are nice and soft, not too grippy. Feeling maybe a crampy feeling into the arch of the foot, and then reaching around. So it's like a spiraling. You might move the arch until it cannot move any further, and then take up the slack through the lower limb, then begin taking up the slack through the upper limb, and then the pelvis rotates next. All right, that feels okay. We'll change to the other side. And some of these exercises are actually provided specifically on how you might be standing or holding yourself. This is a real generic kind of movement piece for you to experience these things, but if something's feeling particularly hard or stuck, it might not be worth pushing into it too much, just noting that and doing the thing that feels a little bit easier, and then moving into that slowly from there. Okay, so that's in contact a little bit more. The carpet is absorbing the ground. There we go, absorbing the foot. So lifting the arch, coming around, just check the legs straight, and adding a reach. That's it. From here, good. Reaching across, creating that movement. Just good to move ourselves in different places that we're not used to moving. Good. Again, just not into pain. So lifting the arch, big toe stayed in contact, non-negotiable. Coming around. Really nice. You can do as many or as little as you want there, and you should start to feel a little bit more awake through the feet and up through your spine, getting that nice rotation in through there. All right, now we're going to just do one final. You're going to step forward. We're going to pop that wedge underneath the big toe. Can't see my feet in this picture, but you'll get the sense we're going to bring the other foot out to the side. And in this one, the back foot is actually at 90 degrees to the front foot. Similar stance, and remember we still want to have that kind of hip distance between the heels, even if it seems like the feet are out to the side there. Okay, so from here, you're wedged, you're going to pop the wedge underneath your big toe and then underneath the little toe, knuckle of the big toe, knuckle of the little toe. The metatarsal head is the correct anatomical term. I'm going to bring the knee over the big toe, try and let that arch drop. You might feel a bit of a opening up through the front of the hip there. Your adductors coming through and back. You must have a sense of like coming around, letting that arch of your foot drop as you come forward. So really focusing on the dropping of the arch. And forwards. And back. You might feel that around your glute. The idea is, can your knee travel over your big toe, not sort of off off the line, so staying on that big toe as you come round and your arch of your foot drops. And here, same setup, coming forwards, knee through and back. Watching the arch of your foot drop, trying to keep that knee over the big toe. The pelvis is travelling forward, the back leg stays straight. Bit of maybe a stretch through here, bit of activity through here, all coming together. Good stuff. You can do as many or as few of those as you like. You can just give them a pause. So now I'm going to come into a nice adductor stretch, which I'm really a fan of, just bringing in some spinal movement. So standing wide, over hip width, probably then half a hip along a side. You're going to bend the front knee. So if when you do this, you feel the stretch here, it's not enough, you can come wider. And if it's too strong, you can come closer. So just find now where that might be. Coming up and then coming over to the other side. Up and over, up and over. And now we're going to come over and we're going to reach across and down. And then coming up, reach across. You can lift the other arm up in the air. And then coming up, coming down. And you could maybe have your arms here so you can windmill them through. Getting that really nice adductor stretch. Give yourself a little bit of a shake. We're just going to come into a last stretch here, so you can hold onto the wall. Have the leg closest to the wall be the one that's going to be doing the thing that it's doing. Imagine you're taking a shoe off, the back of the shoe off. You're going to dig the heel down, so not too far away. Then you're going to bend the back knee as if you're sitting in a chair. Imagine someone's got a band pulling you back, and you're going to reach down to one side, reach to the other, and then reach the toes. Notice my toes are coming up towards me, and I'm really trying to get that sort of side back part of the heel down, curling up, digging the heel down, sitting back, reaching to the toes, and reaching down. Changing over, digging that heel down, sitting back, hands come down to the toe, hand comes forward, rounding through your back as you're reaching down, keeping that lovely rounded position, and then changing down, rounding, rounding, and rounding. That's a lovely little standing wake up series for you. Hope you enjoy.